So hello everyone. Now that we have the recording in progress, I would like to wish you a warm welcome to our panel discussion with a topic from R&D to commercialization, focused also on challenges and strategies for food loss and waste innovative technologies. It is fantastic to see many of you here and also still incoming. And to be honest, I'm genuinely excited for the conversations that we are about to have. Today, we are diving into a topic that's close to all of our hearts, let's say, because we are indeed here, and also to find ways to cross barriers to commercializing innovative ways to tackle food loss and waste. But here's the thing. So today, we're not going to talk about the problem itself. We're also going to talk about the solutions. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers. Experts who have dedicated their careers to commercialization, but also to finding innovative solutions to food loss and waste. They're gonna share their insights, their experiences, and maybe even some secrets to success. We never know. So thank you for being here, Anna, Stefan, Miguel, and Colin. Let's get started. So without further ado, I would give the floor to Anna to lead us through the project and our keynote. Oh, sorry, before just maybe a small remark for speakers to mute their mic when they're not speaking, to have their cameras on, and for participants to utilize the Q&A box for questions. Alternatively, they can comment in the chat. When it comes to the agenda, after the keynote and opening remark, panelists are going to introduce themselves, and then we are off to the panel discussion. It is going to be a lively one, and then the Q&A session later on. So, Anna, I wanted to hear your talk before these introductory slides as well. So the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Daniel. Hello, everyone. On behalf of ZeroW project, I warmly welcome you today, and I hope our webinar and panel discussion will be lovely and interesting, and we are very much honored to host and organize it. As we gather here, our focus, as Daniel mentioned, is not just on innovation commercialization within the food loss and waste domain, but also on the broader spectrum of innovation that can inspire sustainable changes across various industries. The principles we'll discuss today, while centered around food loss and waste, are universally applicable to innovation commercialization, encouraging a more sustainable and efficient future for all of us. Next slide, please, Daniel. A few words about our project. ZeroW is an ambitious initiative funded by the European Union. Our mission is to spearhead systemic innovations leading to zero food waste supply chain. With the collaboration of 46 partners spanning 17 countries, our 4-year-long journey aims to significantly reduce food loss and waste across Europe, where unfortunately about 20% of the produced food is unfortunately wasted. We are doing that by addressing the major identified contributory factors, which you can see part of them, at least on the right side of your screen. Next slide, please. We pride ourselves on a holistic approach encompassing the entire food supply chain from harvest to consumption. And our initiative is built around 9 systemic innovation living labs, which we call SEALs, through which we strive to achieve 25% reduction of food loss and waste by the end of the project, and setting an ambitious target to halve it by 2030 and realize near zero by 2050. Understanding and addressing the challenges for their adoption, including their successful future commercialization and scaling up, is one of the major ZeroW objectives. As the host of the meeting today, we aim to shed light on the importance of commercializing such innovations. Making these advancements accessible and scalable is pivotal for achieving our environmental goals and creating a circular economy that benefits the entire society. Next slide, please, Daniel. Our innovations, from monitoring and assessing food loss and waste with cutting-edge technology to pioneering sustainable packaging solutions and enhancing greenhouse efficiency, our innovations are very diverse, as you can see on the screen. They include transforming food surplus into valuable products, optimizing production processes, and shifting consumer behavior towards more sustainable choices. Each innovation, we believe, is a step forward to our goal of sustainable food system. Next slide, please, Daniel. Commercializing these innovations is imperative for their success. It allows us to transition from pilot projects to widespread adoption, creating sustainable business models that drive economic value while reducing the environmental impact. For innovators, commercializing new innovations is essential to transform your ideas into real-world solutions that address pressing challenges, ensuring at the same time your hard work yields tangible impacts and sustainability. It offers a pathway to personal and professional growth, financial rewards, and the opportunity to inspire, fostering a cycle of innovation and positive societal transformation. Next slide, please, Daniel. Today, we'll look into these themes, exploring how to bring the innovations to market and the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. A special welcome to the participants from other EU-funded projects. As always, your insights enrich our discussions and finding the solutions of the problems that lie ahead. Our gratitude also extends to our panelists, whose vast experience in innovation, commercialization, and food loss and waste will guide our learning today. In the next 50 minutes, we hope to ignite a thought-provoking discussion, laying the groundwork for a collaborative approach to innovation and commercialization in the fight against food loss and waste. Thank you for being here. Together, we are on a path for a more sustainable future, and I really look forward to an enlightening discussion on the opportunities that lie in the commercialization of innovations. Let's begin.
Thank you very much, Anna, for the insightful keynote, for presenting the project and also the importance of commercializing outputs of such a project as ZeroW is and other EU-funded projects, but also the importance for commercializing innovative food loss and waste solutions. So let's keep in mind the immense potential of these advancements that we hold in addressing food loss and waste. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to today's panelists. So we have today Stefan Bostun from Pebblewave. We have Miguel Ángel Cubero Marquez from Ingredalia and Colin Keo from ICP. I would like each of our panelists to take 3 to 5 minutes to introduce themselves, their experience, and also their first insights about the topic. We will definitely later build the story and the panel around their insights. So first, I would like to have Stefan Bostun from Pebblewave.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Stefan Bostun. I'm mainly an entrepreneur. I work with many startups. I've started many startups, and I also invested in many startups, all in the field of farming. And next to that, I'm also a board member of Dosje Mills, which is a leading group in Europe in flour milling and dough-related applications such as tortillas. As for my insights on the road from R&D to commercializations, there are actually many possible roadblocks on that road. Let's start with the beginning. Any new idea must actually have an advantage compared to current applications. And any advantage below 20% of the current situation, so any improvement below current 20% is actually not viable as a company. It is viable as add-on on something existing, on an existing business or an existing product. Any advantage or improvement above 50% will do two things. It will survive in the market sphere, and it will shift behavior rather quickly. Anything between that, so let's say you have a new idea that improves between 20% and 50%. Anything below that, in between those two, depends actually has potential as a separate business, but there it depends on how you on the go-to-market, which is mainly is it well funded? Secondly, do you have enough iterations between the product ID and the end user and decision makers? And do you have enough iterations of, okay, you have a working product, but it's not the same as getting it to market. So also there you need iterations to improve how your go-to-market. And if you're able to do those two things, then the main roadblock that we see is the team quality of the go-to-market. And there, what we often see is that there are incomplete teams. So the original person which has the idea, but there is no one there to start the discussion with the clients, and so there's lack of something there. What we also see is in between the teams and general lack of quality often, and also lack of good interaction between the team members. So even if you have a good product, even if you have the financial room to do the iterations, the main roadblock we see is mainly quality of the team or incomplete teams. So that is my insights.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Thank you for sharing this with us. I have noted things down so we can have a sum up later and focus on the aspects that all of you have mentioned. So next in line, we do have Miguel Angel Cubero Marquez from Ingredalia. Miguel, the floor is yours to share your insights and introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Well, I'm Dr. Miguel Angel Cubero. I have a background in chemistry and food science and technology. I have been working more than 25 years in the food industry, and more than 24 in getting value from the byproducts of that food industry. Okay, so that's that was one of the reasons they offered me the position of CEO of Ingredalia. Who is Ingredalia? Ingredalia is a company that was created. Actually, the idea of Ingredalia was created in 2006, although Ingredalia was created in 2017, because in the heart of the Spanish industry, food transformation industry, mainly the frozen foods companies and the canned food industry, they already saw that they had a problem. They already saw that those numbers that Anna and Stefan have already mentioned. And in the vegetable industry, it's even worse, because when you are talking about an artichoke, that percentage is not 20. The biomass that you are throwing away can be up to 70%. And in broccoli, it's 35. In asparagus, is 30 something too. So it's even larger than the mean, because it's 20% in European Union, but if you talk the world number, it's FAO says it's 14% only. That's not real in the vegetable industry. It's something that we have to tackle, and the whole industry had already tried things, and they realized that the individual approach was not feasible. That it was you need critical mass to do things, and then they decided to create a company to tackle all the problem of the region, not only the region but only the country of Spain. The company is called Trasa, not Ingredalia, but it was the mission of that company was to find solutions, industrial feasible solutions to tackle the byproducts, the food loss. Okay, they have a business model right now that they are blending that byproducts with other animal feed ingredients. They do an anaerobic stabilization or an anaerobic fermentation stabilization. But they have results that are, because one of the technicians is doing her PhD, demonstrating that the cycle life analysis is impressive, that the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, water consumption of the animals and everything, it's up to 80% if you tackle a different view of how to do things, instead of just feeding with the dry feed that they are normally used. Then one of the derivatives was really that there's value in that biomass, in that food loss. There's not only quantities. There's a lot of bioactives, of health promoting components that we are losing because we are not taking them away from that biomass when we are doing compost or biogas or even animal feed. And that approach was in Gredalia, because we are just taking the bioactives, using food tech, using science, using technology from other sectors to be able to give value to that part. And the approach is also that's my insight, that I'm going to add, that the value is not only for the startup of the company that is doing that. You have to give back the value to all the value chain, to the transformer, to the producer, because at the end of the day, if you don't give value to the byproducts, to the food loss, they are not giving them to you because they don't believe it's something worthy to be kept. So we have the change in the mindset is not only from the companies that we are trying to do things with the food loss, it's also from all the value chain, and we have to be our job is not only technical, it's also political at the end of the day, because you have to convince a lot of people that you are really trying to change things in the value chain. Okay.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Now we go to Colin. So Colin has a different background from Miguel and Stefan, which is really interesting, and he's focused on the commercialization part, but not me being the one introducing him. I would say that Colin Q can introduce himself as well.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, so as Daniel mentioned, I do have a different background. My background is actually in engineering. So I was an academic in the engineering field on the technical development side for a long time, mainly working on basically commercializing advanced technologies in the engineering sector. So I did that for many, many years, and completed my PhD on innovation practice and transforming innovative ideas from concepts into market-ready commercial solutions. And through that journey, have probably been involved with 15 or 16 different startup companies of different stages in different fields and different industries. And now presently, for the last few years, I've been working as one of the principal innovation consultants in Inlacom Commercial Pathways. And what we do then is we're a commercialization and exploitation partner in large Horizon Europe funded projects. So we specifically look at mapping and supporting the identification of innovations and then the kind of commercialization of said innovations in large funded EU projects. So I think at any one time, the ICP as a company is probably involved in between 8 and 12 different large multi-country European R&D projects and Horizon Europe projects spanning a wide range of industries. So projects like ZeroW, which is food loss and waste, to medical-based projects into mining, technology development, a wide spectrum of projects and activities. So my kind of experience is looking at all of these projects and the common issues and problems and risks that any of these developmental projects may face. So secondary to the food loss industry, but more these large structured research and development projects, what issues do they face when they're trying to commercialize? And my perspective on that is one of the biggest issues they face is really identifying what the actual problem the solutions solve for the end customers. We all get caught up in complexity of technical development. We all get caught up in our technical work packages and our project development. From experience, I've found that there's a very, very big difference between the technical outcomes and the kind of metric-based outcomes and successes of a project. A very big difference between them and what the actual wants or desires of an end customer may be. And sometimes there's a disconnect between them. Sometimes the technical solution doesn't really solve the problem the customers have. It might solve a problem that comes before or after the real issue that the customers have. Sometimes the solution is great at solving the problem, but the customers aren't aware that that necessarily is the problem, or that the solution is anyway relevant for what they want. It can be highly relevant and really, really impact their day-to-day operations. But like anyone, we all get involved in the complexities of day-to-day management, and particularly in industries that involve food. The food industry is very, very complicated. The food industry demand is ever increasing. The time to change and adapt is not really there. So very, very easy for traditional industries to stay on the path of business as usual and be quite reluctant. They don't want to be, but details necessitate that they have to be quite reluctant to some new form of innovation unless they fully understand the benefit. They fully can clearly see what the ultimate results for their industry or their outcome will be. And then they can see a clear pathway to implementing that solution. So from having worked on many different projects like this, in previous examples, we've had some great, very, very impactful technical solutions, but it would just take too long to implement them in traditional industries. The industry was not ready for them to be implemented yet. The insertion of these new technologies would delay or break business as usual. So companies were very reluctant to integrate them. So the real kind of insight that I have really is that focus on identification of what not necessarily your user need may be, but what your customer need may be, the people that need to purchase your solution, people that need to deploy your solution. You can really identify what problem they are facing and identify a very good story or a very good explanation of how your solution solves their problem in a way that they can easily implement. The success of implementation of these projects in the market goes up significantly. So a significant element of storytelling after the technical developments are done, after the successful scientific results are achieved, a focus on converting what could be very technical or very scientific outputs into meaningful market or business-based results that your customers or your users can identify and get on board with very, very quickly. So that is kind of the main kind of nugget of my insight in this field.
Thank you very much, Colin, and also thank you all for introducing yourself, your experience, and your first insights on good paths to commercialize innovations. I have noted down several things. So does the idea have an advantage? Is it well funded? Do you have enough iterations to have that idea ready and to go to the market? One of the barriers is that is mentioned is definitely incomplete teams, not quality teams. Sometimes we have to be realistic and turn around and see, do we have the right team to go forward with the innovation, but also find individuals that may help us to achieve that. We also mentioned that critical mass is needed, that individual approach is not working most of the times, and that we should always find value in what we do. So, and we also need to give value to the whole value chain. Later on, we also tackled that some technical solutions are not solving real problems. And sometimes also, on the other hand, customers do not understand that there is a solution and the benefit is not clear to them. So it is needed to have the clear pathways and benefits also presented to customers. So once again, thank you very much for sharing your insights. Now I would like to open the floor to the panel discussion with several questions that we have prepared that we would like to tackle at the beginning, especially the question related to challenges and barriers, now to take it more in depth. So yes, let's keep our focus on driving the positive change and creating a more sustainable future. So the first question that I may have, and also I do see that there are also questions already in the Q&A box. We will address those questions shortly, but I encourage everyone to keep writing as we have these discussions for you not to lose your thought. And then we will address every single question towards the end of the panel discussion, and everyone will have an opportunity to ask our panelists some specificities they're interested in. So the first question that I have for our panelists is, what do you see as the biggest challenges in transitioning innovative food loss and waste technologies from your experience from the research and development phase to successful commercialization? So I would say that we can have 5 minutes for this discussion, just for you to outline the biggest challenges. So maybe now go perhaps the other way around and start with Colin from his perspective on commercialization in general.
Sure, sure. I think to me, the biggest challenge is in food loss and waste in particular. It's what I said about any solution needing to fit the details of a current industry. So the food industry, an awful lot of food industry operators, their profit margins are very slim, their volumes are quite high, their waste rates can be quite, can be significant. There is an awful lot of pressure put on them by purchasers or suppliers or distributors. So the market has very rigid operating conditions in that case. So whenever you're trying to bring in a new innovative technology, again, that you don't want to bring turbulence. You don't want to bring too much trouble in disrupting the traditional industry. Now, I've seen some arguments either way that you completely disrupt the industry and build it from scratch again. But that's a very, very difficult thing to do. That remains pulling down an industry and building it up from the beginning. For an analogy outside, something like electric vehicles. Electric vehicles would work if we all banned fossil fuels overnight, but that is not realistic. That's not going to work. So similarly, making sure you integrate your innovative solutions in a way that's not going to be too turbulent and troublesome for the kind of food industry you're implementing your loss solutions into. I find that would help an awful lot. It might take a little bit longer. You might need to spend a little bit more time mapping your solution to a pathway to implementation. But that approach I've found works an awful lot better. Most of the actors and the stakeholders in that space are an awful lot more supportive. They're much keener to get involved. You can provide them a little bit longer of a lead time to get up to speed with what they're doing, and stops just initial rejection. Because an awful lot of kind of technology solutions suffer from initial rejection. You bring a new solution into a market, it requires people in that market to change or adapt how they do things. And they can't really do that, or they don't want to do that. So instead of even investigating the solution, they just say no. So mapping the kind of rollout and the kind of integration of solutions, I find works really, really well. But that is one of those biggest challenges if you do not have it mapped appropriately. Now, it's linked to some of the follow-up questions. Multidisciplinary projects are much better at that because you have different insights. You have commercial actors, you have industry actors, you have governmental actors. All parties need to have a say in the rollout of these projects. But I've seen projects that work well, that have some issues if it's one type of partner that leads the rollout. If it's an academic partner only and all of the academic partners lead the rollout, you have issues from industry, you have issues from government. If it's a government partner, vice versa. So, you kind of need a continuation of your cohort and your stakeholder group to make sure that all opinions are included in your kind of rollout plan into the future. And if you do that, it makes it an awful lot better. But I find that one of the major hurdles of kind of transitioning from that research stage into the more commercial market applicable stage.
Thank you very much, Colin. I would now have a question for Miguel. What do you think it is the biggest challenge, and do you have any comments or thoughts on what Colin has said as someone who has successfully transitioned from research to commercialization?
Well, actually, I totally agree with Colin. I have seen that kind of problems. That's the reason of the critical mass I mentioned. because normally to have a proper business model that really it's feasible, you need quantities. You need to be in a place that you can gather enough quantity to do things. And normally you cannot get them from one industry. You have to get it from 5, 6, 7 actors in the region, and then you need collaboration. You need that they understand that you are helping all of them. That you are not going to prefer to only help one and forget the others. But I also want to tackle that one of the biggest problems that when you really try to do different things to evolve the solutions, for me is really regulatory. Because there's a lot of times that you begin to do things and then you find a bureaucrat that says, no, this is a novel food. Sorry. I'm using the biomass that we have been eating for centuries. I'm just doing a different process that it's not a process that if you do it properly, because that's one of the things that the researchers have to take into account, that the new processes are difficult to implement in the industry. That's, as Colin has said, you have to try to do things with the technologies that they're already used to, and try to not to put too much new things in the model. And then you say, okay, I'm using the same biomass, I'm using the same kind of technologies that they were already in the market, and what I have, I cannot put it in the market again. So why? So the regulatory approach in European Union, to be honest, is the hardest in the world. If you go to United States, to Singapore, to places that really want to boost innovation, innovation needs to have a different regulatory framework. So they are able to do things, they are able to innovate. Obviously, everything has to be proven. We cannot put things in the market that are not safe for the people. But we have to avoid, because I have colleagues in other startups here in Spain, that they took more than 8 years to go to the market after they had the product done. And they have the market need, the market interest. So you need a lot of money to wait 8 years from the end of your research, industrial research, and then go to the market. And then a lot of innovation dies there. So that's something that we have to improve. That when you are finished, you should be able to go to the market in 1-2 years with safety, of course. And obviously that's another problem. When you really do new things, innovative things, you have to explain them to the market. Okay, as I normally explain it, if you are doing orange juice, you don't have to explain anything. Everybody knows orange juice. You drink it, you blend it with whiskey, you do whatever you want, but everybody knows it. But when you go with a powder, white is powder, and you have to explain things. They have to understand what you are trying to do with the powder, with the new ingredient, which are the benefits, and so on. So those are the challenges. That's really a commercial challenge, the market need.
Thank you very much, Miguel. You also sparked some questions in the Q&A that we will address later, and I also see that Anna is addressing them swiftly. Now we will move to Stefan. I would first like to ask Stefan, did PebbleWave encounter some regulatory issues that Miguel and his peers have encountered? And also, besides the regulatory challenges, in your opinion, what are the biggest ones?
Actually, we have not encountered any regulatory challenges due to the products we're working with, but there are indeed possible issues there. On the other hand, I think the way I think about R&D to commercialization is that anything you develop has iterations. You make something and then you say, okay, you apply it, and then you say, okay, it's not good enough yet, and you make an iteration and an improvement. And actually, we are used to think about that in R&D phases, about the solution, the technical solution. What we're not used about is that actually we are the same thing happens afterwards in a commercialization phase, where in the commercialization phase, if you talk with clients, they also have 20 to 30 parameters that we don't know about that are involved in making the decision and applying this new technology. And most of what I see often is that we do those things one after the other. And actually, that is very counterproductive. The best companies I see are doing those two things at the same time, where you have a technical solution, a first iteration, and you immediately go talk with clients and get their insights. You get new insights of that, and you apply not only a technical insight, but also a commercial insight that has most of the time also impacts on your technical solution. So it's actually that iteration where you work with clients as fast as possible and as much as possible, which is very important. And it's not good enough to talk with one possible client. You have to have a statistically relevant amount of clients or possible clients to talk with. Otherwise, you optimize for that one solution for the one client and not for a market. And what you also need to realize is that it's not something because the client says something that is the same thing as the behavior of the eventual behavior of the clients in reality. So what the client says and behavior is not the same. So you really need live testing to know. For instance, you have a new technical solution for water purification or whatever. The lead engineer of the company says, okay, we're doing it like this and that. You apply it in the factory and their workers work with it and something entirely different happens. So you need testing on the field anyway to make sure that stuff like that is prevented. And that will have impacts on your business model, on pricing, on anything and on the product, of course.
Thank you very much, Stefan, but also to Miguel and Colin. Anna, of course, you're part of this. If you would like to add something on your behalf, feel free to do so.
Thank you, Daniel. I'm very busy responding to the questions. A lot of questions already piling up. I believe the last one is not for me, however, so I will give the opportunity to panelists to respond to this one when we start the discussion. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Anna, and also for your support in the Q&A. I would use the opportunity for the next question, and I would invite Stefan to answer this first regarding strategic partnerships, because now you have mentioned also clients and the need of many clients to be successful. So how can strategic partnerships, I would say the question here is between academia, industry, government, and other stakeholders, facilitate the commercialization process? How was that in your experience?
Yeah, well, I think it's actually, it can make a huge difference if applied well, in the sense that supposedly you are developing something in an R&D lab, and you know that you need input from end users and clients. If you are a PhD doing that work, you actually don't have the time, the skills, and the network to find those clients. So anything that can provide enough relevant end users where feedback can be gathered, testing can be done, will shorten feedback loops and will make sure that the quality of the end solution is a lot better. So I think that can make a huge difference. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Miguel, now also from the industry perspective, what are your thoughts?
Well, actually, our foundation was really from a technological center and industry. So we already collaborate from the beginning. We already had that partnership from the beginning. And there's one thing that I also have an academic past, to be honest. So one thing that Stefan has noted that I totally agree is that you have to go to the market, listen to the market, but when you are in the market, you don't have to be so academic. Maybe you have the idea of the lean startup, the MVP, the minimal viable product. If you have something that can go to the market, even if it's not the perfect, go, test, see what happens, see what the reaction is. It's better to have something that is at 75% but workable than the perfection. Okay, so that's one of the things that you have to, and then you have to have people from the market that you know, that they know your product, that they are willing to try, even if it's not at the price that you want to sell, or even you have to give free for the first batch, so they try these things. But that's something that you really need. You need the market. You need the academia, because the real innovation comes from the academia, from testing the limits of the science. But you also have to make a funnel to say, okay, this is the limits of the science, but what can go to industry now? What is feasible? Because you can do a lot of things. You can work with ionic liquids to make extractions, but the cost will be awesome. So it's you cannot go to summer science that is being built now. So you have to select. You have people in the industry that understand what is feasible, what is not. Even it looks very nice for the next 10, 20 years, but you have to hold on your part. And obviously, government, as I already said, is regulatory. It's key, because you have to understand what can be done now and what has to wait. I have already read a question that says, yes, 10 years to the market is too late. I totally agree, but it happens. So, but if you talk with the government, you can find some ways to do things, some ways to even to get subsidies, to get grants, to get help. Maybe not in money, but in people, in agencies, in industry, so you can connect. You have to understand that we are really an ecosystem, not individuals in this. So you have to be in your ecosystem. You have to find the ecosystem that you work well, and that they also need you, because then things work.
Thank you, Miguel. Now we will move to Colin, but before Colin answers how can strategic partnerships facilitate the commercialization, I do have a question that I would say I extracted from Stefan, and especially from Miguel's words now. Do you think that academia and research do not risk enough? So this is a question for Colin.
I'll happily answer that. So thankfully, I've been in both sides of that. I'm still an academic, and I'm on the commercial side as well. And to a certain degree, yes, they don't risk enough in that case, but in many cases they can't. You know, most institutions, most research, most university utilize some form of government money or public money, at least in Europe. The US is very different, but at least in Europe. So it's us as taxpayers, it's our money. So there needs to be some sort of sense and some sort of logic in how they invest and the risks that they take. So they need to be measured. So in comparison to private industry, or comparison to, say, a US-based market, yes, they take significantly less risks, but they kind of have to. So and that kind of echoes in my kind of point about strategic partnerships. For projects like this, each one of the actors can provide different constraints onto the project. Any project to get to commercialization needs to operate in some sort of constraints. It may be a yearly constraint, a time constraint over the duration of a project. It could be a budgetary constraint, a regulatory constraint. But if you effectively build good strategic partnerships, each relevant partner can outline the most relevant constraints for their industry. So academia, again, great, lots of research, lots of depth, lots of time. But as mentioned, 10 years is too long, to commercialization. So the time frames in academia can be quite long. And then the risk profile, as you mentioned, is much lower. So they don't set that. Maybe academia can set the research and the detail and the output and the results. Whereas industry timeframes are much shorter, months in some cases. Industry understands the needs of the customers. Industry has that regular recurring non-governmental revenue. Industry can take the risks. Industry can move in external markets. So they bring that to the consortium. Government then, in an awful lot of cases, are regulatory. They will set your regulatory guidance. They will provide you with your food safety regulations or your operational regulations that in an awful lot of cases, academia might analyze, but doesn't know how to implement. And while industry, while they implement them, they may not want to implement them in the long run. You know, they might disagree with them or view them as burdensome or difficult. So the government has a big play in there as well. So for any successful collaboration is that multifaceted engagement. Make sure each of the partners are inputting their specific criteria onto the project and then exploiting their own weaknesses or so exploiting their own strengths and using other partner strengths to cover it up. So if you do that nice mix, it will lead to commercialization. And based on what Stefan and Miguel both said, you know, each one of these things have different areas, different specialities, different expertise, and can help in different manners. So I know from some not in the food industry, but particularly in the medical industry, where you know your time to market is 10 years plus, there's a huge amount of regulatory burden. One of the most important partners in that space is the government and the regulators. The more help they can give us, the easier path they can make towards regulation. You know, if to give you an example, if you're working towards a market with regulatory burdens and it might take you a couple of years to break those regulatory burdens, you need to start early. You know, normally you would do for scaling up a process, I'm based in Ireland, I might say I'm going to launch in Ireland this year, the UK next year, and Spain, France, and Germany the year after. But if each one of them have different local, regional, or national regulatory burdens, I can't do that staged approach. It might take 5 years for Ireland, 5 years for the UK, 5 years for Germany, and then I'm 15 years down the line. I need to start them all early. So using this mixed strategy, these mixed stakeholder inputs, and mapping your overall process with the input from each of your partners, that I think is one of the real strengths of these strategic partnerships. And you have appropriate time to address these issues. You know, you don't have to react quickly. For any of these things, reacting fast is preferred, but not ideal. As in, if I have a problem I need to solve, I want 2 years to solve that problem, not 2 weeks. So the more you plan it, the more you involve the partners, the easier that process gets in the long run.
Thank you very much, Colin. I see that mostly we're speaking sometimes about regulatory aspects of barriers. It is quite interesting to hear all the experiences and all the insights. And I would even suggest for us to have a special panel discussion on regulatory aspects later on. But also now to encourage the audience to ask questions and also share their experiences when it comes to barriers and their views on strategic partnerships. And also sometimes their views on are we risking enough as a continent? Okay, now moving to the next question. I think we can take this one briefly per each, because we do have to cover 2 more and we also have a time constraint. So I would say to start answering the question, so what role do funding mechanisms and investment opportunities play in scaling up innovative technologies for widespread adoption? So I would also like to go from the government one, but also the private one, if you can address your experiences with this. Perhaps now we can start with Miguel.
Well, in business, you need money. That's key. So and you have 2 options when you begin to do those things. You have already people from the business, from the industry, that believe in the project and put the money so you can begin with, or you have to look for money. So that's in startups we talk about the triple F round. That is the beginning of all. And normally it's family, friends, and fools. But normally I was lucky because I was already, when I got into the company, we already had those people, those industrial people that can be really, really supportive. They can put the money needed. but we also look for government money at the end of the day, because there's a lot of money coming from European Union to do really new things for circular economy, for sustainability, for food tech. And obviously we have to profit of that and use that money to do more things. The thing is that you really have to have a clear view of what you need and for what you need it. Not just ask for the money because I want money. I want money for this. You have, as Colin has said, you have to have a plan, and then look for the money for that plan and take the opportunities, but not really go for money, because then you will end up with a lot of projects that have no sense. They are not in the line of your needs, and then you will fail.
Thank you, Miguel. Noted down. Stefan, what about you? What about Pebblewave?
The role of funding mechanisms in scaling up, they're quite important, of course. Without funding, no. Any business that starts up, the starting point is there is no turnover, there's no income, and you're at a point where you have probably a technology that has potential, but there's no product market fit. That gap that needs to be bridged is about most of the cases about a year, where you interact with clients and you realize that you need to adapt your pricing, the cost of your product or the features of your product. Those are about, I would say, at least 10 iterations needed there to make sure that it works well. And that gap is actually a valley of death, where there's I'm actually not aware of any public funding to bridge that gap, or it's very rare. So it's most of the time it falls into private hands, where that view on bridging that gap and having it's actually quite hard to get it financed.
Thank you, Stefan. I would have now a follow-up question when it comes to like valley of death, because I do also have certain experience with startups, being part of F6S, which is the largest network of startups. Do you think that sometimes startups in Europe are too much used to EU funding and not risking enough to find the private investment or roll out themselves? So I would say I see Colin is nodding. So Colin, would you like to follow up, and then we can come back to Miguel and Stefan?
Yeah, I think I'm picking up on the points that both Miguel and Stefan had. Stefan in particular with the that valley of death and the product market fit gap. I think it's a good thing. Europe is very, very strong in providing early stage funding for startups at that early stage. Before you cross that valley of death, definitely. I think we're one of the best in the world at providing volume and the amount of and access to that early stage funding, which is what you need in the early stages of a project. You don't have a product yet, you don't have customers yet, you're not making revenue yet. So you need to get these things. The difference comes in, as Stefan said, with that valley of death. That's generally private money is what you need, private investment to jump that valley of death. And we have a little bit of an over-reliance on those early stages of funding. Because there's so many of them in Europe, there's lots of programs, there's lots of support, there's lots of money. It can be very, very easy for a company to, I don't want to say to lose their ambition, but to get used to small amounts of low level of government funding year by year by year. It can keep your company alive, it can keep paying your salary, but it stops you from taking that big jump into the private market, because some of them are going to fail. You jump into the private market, 80% of them may fail. They might not get their money, they might not meet the market, but that's a kind of risk. So I think, yeah, we're in a good spot in Europe with lots of funding for that early stages. It really is a difficult jump, and there isn't an awful lot of programs. As Stefan said, I can't think of a funding mechanism either that supports that valley of death product market fit jump either. But once you get over the other side, it's better. So I think we're better at the lower end, early stages than most places in the world. But again, we're not comparable to, say, a US market for the more venture-driven ones. But you have to take that with an acknowledgement. In the US market, there's practically no government level support, and there's very, you have to go straight to private at the beginning. So I think we're more suited for these multi-party strategic partnership research-led projects here, because they don't have to go out to market too early. They can take some time to evaluate with what they need.
Thank you very much. Briefly, in a sentence or two, Colin, Miguel, Miguel or Stefan.
I totally agree with what Colin has said. And at the end of the day, it's really that the government aids are good, but you don't have to find your business model on them, as he has said. You have to prepare your business model on products, on services, on what you are really going to get from your idea, from your research, and that's the key. You have to understand that, and you also have to understand that if you begin to do it and the market doesn't really need your idea or is not ready for it, you also have to you have to stop, see what's happened. Can you redo it? Can you make a change of your idea to go to the market, or you have to stop and close? Because at least here in Spain, a lot of people is really afraid to fail. But this is really innovative. This is startups. You can fail, because it can happen that your idea is not really fit for the market or when you scale up, what works in the lab doesn't really work in the industry. So you have to understand that and don't just keep on, and they go, okay, stop here. There's no need to go further. This idea is not good now. Maybe in 50 years, someone will take it, and with the technology, then it will work. Well, not now.
Thank you, Miguel. Stefan, final words. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Yes, actually, I agree. But I think the main solution is to reduce that valley of death in commercialization, is to make sure that interaction with end users and decision makers as early as possible in the process of developing a product. It's kind of, I think it's kind of insane to develop a technical solution without taking into account criteria that a decision maker has, or criteria that a government regulator has. It's insane. So we need to bring all that information at the front of the line in the development process. But there's no easy way to bring that information to the front of the line.
Thank you, Stefan. Now we move to a question. I think that all the discussion also led to these questions. So how can we ensure that innovative food loss and waste technologies are market ready and meet the needs of end users? I think, Stefan, you just started answering these questions. So if you can elaborate a bit more, and then we will move to Miguel and Colin.
Yes. So the main thing I think we need to realize is that it's impossible to make a perfect product from the first time. It's just impossible. Why? Because there are way too many parameters. There are technical parameters, there are business parameters, there are decision-making parameters, and so on. So we can't know everything. So that means that there will always be an iteration process where we confront ourselves with the market reality, and then we improve something. So we need that loop of information is not there. I have never seen it on a university level, or it's very rudimentary. And the more we improve that loop, the better our results will be.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Miguel, what are your thoughts about trying out and not having a perfect market-ready solution right away? So how can we ensure that our technologies that we develop meet the needs of end users?
As Stefan has said, because that's what we did. Go to the market, go to end users, go to the customers, show them your prototypes. So they let them try them, let them be critic with you. Say, okay, I have this, does it work? Tell me why not? What is not fit for you? So you can go back to the lab bench and say, okay, it's too hard, it's too brittle. So how can I solve that with the technology, or do I need a new technology to improve? Actually, as Stefan has said, we did several industrial trials before we got the final product that now it's in the market, because you have to try, and you have to, and then you need money to try, because the industrial trials are not free. I hope that sometimes they are free, so we can do more things, but normally people want to be paid. So that's the iterations that Stefan have said, that you really have to do them. You have. I normally say that the best thing that a CEO of a startup has to have is have no shame. Go, show, be realistic, show them that you are not ready, but you need them to understand why you are not ready. And you have to knock on a lot of doors. A lot of them will not open, but the one that opens will help you.
That's a great advice, Miguel. Thank you. So, Colin, your thoughts on this? So,
Exactly the same as Stefan and Miguel, really involving your users and your customers as soon as possible. And for these kind of strategic partnership based projects, I like to, as much as possible, involve users that are outside the remit of that project. So they're not project partners. If you have industrial partners, that's great, but you need to involve other partners in other people in those industries as well. You know, there can be an element of, if we're all working on a project together, we're all incentivized and hopeful the project will succeed. So you might not get that honest opinion or that harsh opinion that Miguel mentioned. So, you know, integrating external users of your end project, of your end products, are very, very useful in that case. And again, to borrow from the startup land, the kind of the mother test, as they said, if you show your own mother your ideas, she'll say they're the best ideas in the whole world. You need to go and find other people that don't have a vested interest in order to give you that. So, you know, diverse, wide ranging industry and commercial focused user groups and end customer groups, in whatever manner you want to engage with them, be it focus groups or field trials or trade shows. The more people you can show that are outside your little circle, that are potential end customers, and allow them to give you feedback, the better the outcome will be.
thank you very much, Colin. I am actually happy that we are aligned on this one. So indeed, we should all try out. We do believe in our ideas, but we should be open, completely open to hearing feedback from end users, especially, and have iterative improvements. So the last question of the day before we kick off with a Q&A session, and again, encouraging everyone to ask their questions. I see that there is already a discussion there. We will address it shortly. So what are the key factors for ensuring the long-term sustainability and impact of innovative solutions? Of course, now talking about food loss and waste, but also in general, I would like to hear. So perhaps starting from Colin this way.
Yeah, so to me, like, the key factors are the business factors in those practice. Can your solution operate as a business with some form of business model that will allow it to run month on month, year on year into the future? You know, nothing will really run forever, but you know, it needs to have solid foundations without government funding or grant funding or research-based funding. You know, it needs to be able to stand on its own, to like its own feet, and operate in the market and the industry. And again, that can be difficult because you can get false starts. Again, it's to do with the value of debt. Your first product market fit, it might hit. You might have innovators, you might have early adopters, you might have people that are interested in supporting you. And you think, brilliant, my company's a success. I don't need research funding. I don't need continued support. And then you can't make that jump. You can't get the general bulk of the population. There's a problem in there as well. So, you know, when you need that product market fit, you need to get it 2 times. You need to get it once for the initial early adopters, and you need to get it again for everyone else. So, you know, having a long-term, reliable, trackable, bankable business model that will allow you to potentially grow your business, add new options, add new solutions. But if you do not grow at all, that you're able to do recurrent, regular business month on month into the future, that to me is one of the key factors I'd look for in that. You know, long-term survivability, you have to make sure you have regular income, you have regular, you know, money to maintain and grow. So if you can do that, that I think will massively impact the innovative solutions, because I've seen it in some projects before that at the very early days, it's new, it's interesting, exciting, people are interested, but then very, very quickly interest diminishes, something else comes along, something new comes into place, there's a new technology, there's a new solution. You know, everyone seems to be putting AI in their solutions now. Give that a year's time and everyone will be putting something else in their solutions now. So once you build solid foundations and you have a solid recurring business, you're kind of separate from these kind of changes in interest and focus in a market in that case. So that to me is the biggest one from my side.
Thank you very much, Colin. Stefan, from your experience, do you agree with Colin?
Yes, of course I do. But other than that, I think I think the main thing to realize is that the improvement of the new solution compared to the base case. If the improvement, what is a business is sharing the improvement between two partners in the market, the end user and the business that provides the new solution. So if you have a new solution that gives an improvement on the base case, let's say 10%, I can assure you that it's very hard to make a viable business. And if it's a totally new technology that implies replacement of existing, it's a dead case. But if you have an improvement of, say, 50% or more, it will almost always have a good chance in the market. So the improvement versus the base case is actually what makes the biggest difference in viability. Other than that, you have findings and so on, but it's down the line of the deploying. But if the base case is really good, then you have a really good chance. And anything in between that, let's say a 20% improvement and the 50% improvement, there's a lot of good ideas that die due to various things like not enough funding, the quality of the team, the product market fit, the so-called valley of death, and not done well enough or not enough iterations done, and so on and so on and so on. There are many cases there that die. Yeah. But if you really want to have a big impact, go for the huge difference and not for the small differences. That's where it starts.
Thank you, Stefan. Miguel, your thoughts on the question?
I may seem repetitive, but people keep talking with the market, keep talking with the customers, but also listen to others' ideas, keep on track and go to trade shows, see what people are doing, see what you can collaborate with to do things better than you are doing, or do new things with your merging the two ideas. You have to keep going. Don't think that you are finished. You don't think that, okay, I have the product in the market, I have good revenue, I can stop. No, I have to keep on, because what's good revenue now, in 10 years maybe it's a commodity and you have no revenue at all. And then you have to be ready with the new things, with new improvements, with new things and new impact in the business.
I think you have summarized it perfectly for our next part, which is the Q&A session. And I think the main outcome is, as we mentioned, never stop moving. So keep moving, keep innovating, keep improving. So we do have questions already, which I'm really happy. And there are some questions that Anna has already answered. Anna, would you like to give just a brief overview of the questions that you have answered? Just so we also follow up. I see there's 6 questions, so maybe just briefly what was discussed.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. So in general, what we discussed is what is included and what is not included in ZeroW project. So from the perspective of pre-harvest solutions, yes, we do have a pre-harvest solution. It is focused on optimizing the yield so the farmers do not overproduce, which then leads to food loss and waste. And in this way, they maximize also their prospective income. Also solutions of what to do with the ugly food while it is still on the branch and growing. There were questions about seaweed production. We do not have this use case, and unfortunately, we do not have an opportunity to add new use cases in the project. However, in the future, as Horizon Europe program continues, there will be a lot of opportunities, and our consortium in general is very fond of continuing the work and the fight towards food loss and waste. So I would encourage everyone, if you have interesting ideas, please do get in touch. You will find our contact details in the project website. I will post a link in a moment to it. So yes, don't be shy, get in touch, and something interesting may pop up from this discussion. I think I haven't missed anything from the questions. Yeah, human consumption models and behavioral attitudes. We do not discuss those in particular. We do have a solution that focus on consumers, but this is more on how to optimize your weekly planning and also how to improve the information on the labels that will allow you to make informed decisions, having into account the food waste that you will generate as well. That's it from me.
Thank you very much, Anna, for summarizing and also for answering all the questions. I hope that all the questions, yes, oh, they are answered. Thank you very much, Anna. So we do continue with the first question that was, I believe, related to barriers and strategic partnerships, and taking a lot of time for solutions to go to the market. So we have a question, or rather a statement: 10 years to go to the market is too long. Innovation will be obsolete by then. So I would say that we have answered this question throughout the discussion, but maybe if someone would like to pinpoint on or share their experience, how they have avoided to wait that long, or is there a way not to wait that long? Colin?
Maybe I can help. So yeah, it's too long in research projects, in government projects. That's relatively not surprising, but for industry, that's too long. So you really you reduce it by raising more money, increasing your time, refocusing, and being really specific on one niche delivery. There's a number of different kind of strategies. It depends on your industry and where you are. So again, to talk about medical devices, for example, some of the lead times for certification can be 5 years, 10 years to get certified. So I've worked with some companies that while they're doing that long lead time certification, they look at alternate uses of their product that doesn't need that regulatory burden. So diagnostic or human-centered treatment is very difficult, but something like diagnostic or data imaging or bulk data can be done at the same time. So, you can look at your plan, and if it's going to take you 10 years, you're going to have to find other ways to get there, other avenues to, other business markets, other potential service offerings. Maybe it's multiple projects strung together. But yeah, if it's going to take you that long, you're going to have to spend an awful lot of money, or you're going to have to, work in a more complex plan and program.
Thank you very much, Colin. We do have a direct question to Stefan. if Stefan can define just how deep the pockets need to be. So how much funding would be considered appropriate to a startup with global potential? So I would say this is from the early stages.
The deepness of the pocket depends on the number of iterations you need. If you have already a prototype, going from prototype to product market fit is about a year, and anywhere from between 5 to 15 iterations needed, where any iteration can imply that you have to rework some of the work done on the prototype. So that can be very costly. So it depends on the case, but I would say calculate in terms of iterations needed, and never calculate any less than 5 iterations, and best case and worst case about 15 iterations, and calculate for sure a year.
Thank you very much, Stefan, for quantifying this. Really, really useful. We do have a rather long question about a digital health solution that supports the personal nutrition management of hospitalized patients. They do have a platform, or let's say 2 platforms. One was working with medical centers, and the other one includes prototype developed in collaboration with leading research and academic bodies in Israel and Europe. So is this field in your field of interest, Anna, or would you?
Yes, I responded already in a follow-up question from Itzik below. So while we do not have an opportunity to add new use cases and extend the scope of our project, as I mentioned earlier, we are very much committed to continue working in the area of reduction and prevention of food loss and waste. And as I cannot respond on behalf of our partners that are developing the a solution about the recipes, perhaps it will be a great idea, Itzik, if you drop me a line and we can continue this discussion offline, and I can link you directly with the people that can be of your interest going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. I think the next question as well, perhaps Colin and you can answer. I assume that this is related to government support, that a person had support in the UK, but very little in Ireland. So do you have any suggestions about the government support in Ireland, knowing that, that you're based in Ireland?
Yeah. No, it's kind of, it's very dependent on what the area is. Ireland as a country is very small. We have limited budgets, we have limited areas of focus. So our government focuses on specific areas of interest. And if your solution falls outside that area of interest, it can be difficult. So an Irish government is a traditional government structure. Again, it's public money. There's lots of reporting required. So my recommendation to that is there are lots of plans. There's Enterprise Ireland funding, there's Create NI funding, there's EU funding, there's Interreg, there's Horizon Europe. There's probably 20 or 30 different relevant funding programs at a local, regional, and national level that you just need to find the ones that align to you, and then maybe spend some time and applications applying. They want things in a specific way. They're looking for businesses presented in a specific way. And most of the problems that I see from people not getting the support is they're either not presenting it in the right way, or they don't want to present it in the right way, and they just refuse to do it. So that's very, very common again. They say, no, I don't care. I'm not doing it this way. I'm not, this is what I'm doing. They're not going to support you then. So assessing the programs, finding out how they want you to apply, and then applying to them that way, I found works quite well. There's lots of different options. And then if any of the Ireland ones don't fit, again, you've got different priorities in the UK. You have different European programs that were centralized in a place like Europe. They all become suitable then and available then too.
Thank you very much, Colin. We will move on to the next question. Are there specific issues for food loss and waste in commercializing innovations, or are they all quite general? So from your experience, perhaps, Anna, you want to answer?
Um,
You turned on your mic, so I assumed.
I think perhaps Miguel is
Yeah,
best
okay.
placed to answer. I can give the perspective from ZeroW, of course, whether there is something specific about food loss and waste in general is that it used to be a secret and no one wanted to talk about it, and now slowly it is creeping out to the limelight, and it is taking part into the sustainability strategies of the various companies in the supply chain. So from this perspective, yes, it is becoming more modern to include it, and this is of course in help of our innovations. On the other hand, in different separate elements of the supply chain, you will see individual challenges, which perhaps may not be so specific for the food loss and waste innovations in general. But for example, if you're working with the farmers, you will know that they are not so tech savvy, so any tech innovations are more difficult to be implemented. On the other hand, the retailers, they are very protective of their data and their models. So perhaps this is not so relevant specifically for food loss and waste, but to innovations in general. But this is things that we are also facing in our work. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Miguel, would you like to follow up?
Yes, actually, to be honest, it's a totally different approach if you're tackling food loss or food waste. Because food loss, at the end of the day, it's industry, things are more controlled, and it's, I wouldn't say easier, but you can take a different approach, a more, let's say, scientific approach. But anyway, it's totally different depending on the industry, because it's not the same if you are working with a company that is only working in broccoli, because you will have a 100% broccoli byproduct, and then you can decide things and do things with that. But if you are working with a salad producer, you will get blend byproduct. And then the first thing is, can you work with that? Because as colleagues have said, if you're talking with them, they will say, no, I don't want to change my production plan. So take it as it is. Then can I do something? I can do a separation after, or can I find a real value on the separation? Then I can go back and say, okay, separate it, and then I will be able to pay you the same price as the salad for the byproduct, and then they will do it. So that you have to let's say every byproduct can be different. So and you have to, and when you are willing to do things, you have to talk with the producer, talk with the academy, talk with the ecosystem to understand what you really have and what can be done with that. And in food waste is normally you have blended everywhere. So because then in the restaurants, in our homes, you don't really separate banana peel from apple peels and things like that. And then takes to different challenges in how you can tackle that. To go back to the food industry, if you don't want to go back to the food industry, it's a different scenario.
Thank you, Miguel, for sharing the insights, but also valuable advice. We will have time for 2 more questions. The first one is direct to Stefan. So to understand the improvement mentioned, I would say that it's improvement versus base case and about viability. For instance, in this case, they have a solution that reduces 10% of the food waste generated by the user. Is that not feasible? However, if they have a solution that reduces 50% of the food waste, then is that feasible? So they are asking if they are correct with the reasoning. So if you can just briefly go back to the percentages that you were mentioning and iterations.
So if you have a solution that improves, let's say, 10% of the food waste, then the 10% represents an amount of money, let's say 10 euros. Then you have to divide to all the parties that 10 euros, and you have to give at least 2/3 of that savings to the end user in order to convince him to change and invest. So then that leaves about 1/3 that you can use to pay for everything and run the business. So if it's a small amount of reduction, then you need a huge scale, and then it can still be viable. If it's a big reduction of waste, then you have a big, let's say you do have 50% improvement, then you have 50 euros, then you have a lot less needs in scale. But anyway, a big saving that scales hard will be very difficult to apply in the food business because it's really all about scale and scaling well. So, but that are then the commercial, that value requirements. But think about that. How much euros does represent a saving, and how much? And you need to give at least 2/3 to the end user in order to convince him to use your products. And then what is left over? Okay, can I pay everything with that? What's left over, and what are my criteria to do that? To pay everything with it.
Thank you, Stefan, and we hope that that has clarified the reasoning. So to end, we have a really nice question. So based on your experience, which is the most successful story reaching the market? So a brilliant idea coming from the lab, which could be very well developed, or an idea coming from the market or industry, but it's very challenging, which could be only partially implemented. In other words, where is the main driving force of successful ideas? So I would say that we can finish our panel discussion with this question. So who would like to volunteer to answer this?
Colin, you can begin.
Okay, sure, no problem. I think, yeah, coming from outside the food industry, to me, that's they're equal. They're kind of equal in that case, you know, industry-driven ideas and research-driven ideas. So I wouldn't say one is better than others, but I think for food industry, because we eat it, because it's regulated, because it's a safety product, you know, there is going to be a kind of preference towards the research-led actions because we need to be safe, we need to develop, we need to do things like that. As for the best idea, if they're asking for the best idea, the ones that have just become so superfluous, they're everywhere. So you take microwave being one, you know, developed in a lab for a completely different application, took many, many years and an education program in which people needed to be educated what a microwave oven was and what its use was. And now we're at a stage where there's one in every house, basically, in the world or around the world. So, you know, that was academically led, research led from the military industry, nothing to do with food at all. So, you know what I mean? That I think will be the driver of an awful lot of the new innovations will come from that research field and development field and progressive field. Probably the same for food varieties, crop varieties, GMO products, food additives, canning, pasteurization, things like that. Big moves. But yeah, so like to me, I kind of say that research into the market would, for me, would probably give better results or bigger impacts, let's say, than little changes in the industry operation. But they're both as valid as each other.
Thank you, Colin. That is really interesting example. Miguel, would you like to follow up?
Yes, I will. A lot of the things I wanted to say, Colin already have said them, so I'll go directly to that you have to listen. You have to keep listening to the market. I have already said, but not only to your market. For example, one thing that 10 years ago people think the first one that got into the market was nuts is nutraceutical gummies. But now it's one of the trends on the industry. So you have to understand not only what is being done in the market now, but what are the needs that are not covered in the market now. And then think if you can use other things from other markets to cover them. That's one of the key success that you can do. Finding a niche that it will become not a niche, but a huge trend. Actually, one it is not a startup one, but it's what happened with Nespresso, with the capsules of coffee. You know, actually, people don't know, but Nespresso the capsule was not developed in the 1990s when they began to be in the market. They were developed in the 50s. but people were not ready for that. And then they just put it away. And when they saw that the market was ready for it, they go for it. And then they have created a new category of products. So that was covering from another technologies. They just developed one thing for the food market.
Thank you, Miguel. Stefan, your opinion.
Well, I think the wonderful thing is that the food industry is exploding with new ideas. There's so many new potential things, and there's also a lot of openness from end user and consumers to evolve and try new things. So there's actually a lot of new potential. But if I would point to two big trends that are happening right now, is that food production is going from outdoors to indoors. So from greenhouses to vertical farms, that trend is speeding up. And we see wonderful products and solutions there, which can be localized, but are growing. And then the other trend we also see is the one from new meat solutions, either plant-based or cell-based, which are also scaling up, and a whole new industry is starting to grow to start from nothing, actually. So those are really two big trends happening right now. Apart from nutraceuticals, there's also really interesting trends. Yeah.
Thank you. Anna, would you like to give some closure and closing remarks from everything that you have heard?
For me, it was very educational. I hope it was interesting for the participants as well. I want to really thank you for the time and the interesting comments and interesting questions from all our attendees. And most of all, I want to thank you to our amazing panelists. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your perspective, which was so different and so specific in the guidance that you give. I hope to see from you again soon in our ecosystem. And that's all for me. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Anna. Also, I would like to extend and express my gratitude to all of you joining us today, especially our panelists and our audience. And of course, I'm really happy that we have explored the challenges, but also the strategies surrounding the commercialization of innovative food loss and waste technologies. And I'm sure that these insights will be valuable for everyone that has been attending. For me, for sure. Cannot wait to implement some of your ideas, especially within the ZeroW project, where we deal with the commercialization of food loss and waste innovative technologies. So one big thank you for sharing everything with us, for asking questions, and being open to creating a more sustainable future for all of us. As Anna mentioned, please go check our website, zerow/project.eu. Get in touch with us. We're always open to hearing about solutions that are tackling food loss and waste. When it comes to the business ecosystem, yes, we are a group where we discuss these matters. So please join. And if you have joined already, invite your peers. Here is the link. Of course, we will share the presentation, the recording with all of you. You just need to fill out a simple enrollment form, and you're there part of the ecosystem. And of course, if you have any questions, my name is Daniel Pavlica on behalf of F6S. Together, I have organized this with my colleague Mirana Canham, and feel free to reach us out with any question that you may have about the business ecosystem. We are here to demystify the commercialization part of food loss and waste innovative technologies. So thank you very much for joining.